And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you this week?
Good. At the end of last week's podcast, we got hit immediately following that with an awful, awful storm that I saw made national news. And some of our residents in town just got their power back on Sunday.
Well,
And
that was a
I,
5-day power outage.
yes, I have never in my entire life living here, with the exception of Hurricane Sandy, have seen such devastation from a 5-minute storm.
And was the campus shut down?
No, as a matter of fact, campus was the only place that had power.
Because did they not lose it, or they have backup generators?
Well, there are backup for emergency generators, but no, they didn't lose. At least the central part of campus didn't
Oh,
lose power.
good. Well,
The
great.
auxiliary, the farther out buildings did lose power.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, we had a little storm blew through here the other night, and we lost power for about 3.5 hours. But fortunately, I happen to have a whole house generator, so we were in good
Yeah,
shape. All right.
never saw such devastation in such a short amount of time.
Wow, a lot of trees come down.
A lot of trees come down.
All right. All right. Hey, we have a ton of stuff to talk about. I think I mentioned to you before we got on air that I started out with a list of 14 or 15 things. I had to cut it down to eight. So here's the eight or nine, maybe it's nine things I'm going to try to talk about today. Anyway, it's news and perspective you want to hear on TV, and a lot of things I'm going to talk about tonight. I guarantee you didn't hear about on TV, but you should have heard about them, and we're going to talk about why you didn't hear about them. But anyway, today is we're recording this on Tuesday, May the 5th, 2025, and we're going to start off with a clip of a compilation of liberals pleading with someone to assassinate President Trump. And the stupidest thing I've heard all week, we'll tell you about Congresswoman Ilhan Omar from Minnesota making a bogus claim that white men are responsible for most of the deaths in this country and that the government needs to be profiling and monitoring white men.
Mm.
And we'll tell you why she has no clue what she's talking about and how wrong she is. We'll also tell you an interesting thing I saw yesterday, how artificial intelligence systems are becoming so sophisticated that they can tell where you are or where you were from pictures you post online, even if you remove the meta tag data from those pictures before you post them. And we'll give you some examples. And you know what a meta tag, right?
Yeah, yep. It's the
Every time you,
embedded information about that photo.
right, every time like you take a picture with your phone, the phone embeds in the photograph. You can't, it's not visible, but it uses the GPS on your phone and saying this picture was taken at this location, at this GPS location at this time. That's embedded in the picture, and anybody who's sophisticated enough can look at your picture, and if you didn't remove that meta tag data, they can tell exactly where and when that picture was taken. But AI systems can now, even if you remove that data, can have a great track record of predicting where the picture was taken. We have another great example of how a lot of global warming predictions are being proven spectacularly wrong, and we'll give you some details about that. Um, you know any people that are either taking or thinking about taking some of the new weight loss drugs like Ozempic or Wegovy?
Yeah, they're pretty popular. They've been in a lot of my local like mom groups. Yeah.
Well, we're going to give you some data about how many thousands of people are winding up in emergency rooms
Mhm.
as a result of taking those drugs. It's pretty scary. So it's not without risk. If you're an animal lover and you occasionally donate money to nonprofit, groups that rescue animals that supposedly use your donation to save abused animals, we'll tell you why the ASPCA should be at the bottom of
Yep.
your donation list and not at the top. I think you're familiar with that.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll tell you why, if you're an illegal alien trying to hide from ICE, you should consider moving to the state of Illinois. We'll also play a clip of the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, voluntarily showing his own ignorance about a piece of gun legislation that he recently signed into law, and that he clearly has no idea what he signed. We'll play a clip of John Stossel explaining how Hollywood and the media have been teaming up with anti-gun groups to try and convince American people that the concept of a good guy with a gun, good guys with guns saving lives is a myth, when in reality nothing could be further from the truth. And related to that, we'll wrap up with our taxpayer lease shot, where a woman who's 6 months pregnant and has two small children in the house uses a gun to protect herself and her children from a violent domestic abuser. All right. You think we're going to fit that all in?
That seems like an awful lot.
I know. All right, so let's talk with these. This is a compilation of liberals. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It goes on for 19 minutes. There's a guy in the end starts to get give a little speech about why these people are doing this and whatnot, but I'll just play the first minute or two. And these are different people pleading with somebody, please assassinate President Trump. Here we go.
6 weeks in, who's going to do it? Who's going to take one for the team and do it? And I'm not going to say what it is, because I know that you know that I know what we're all thinking. Who's going to do it? It can't be me. I'm a dance teacher. I got things to do. But somebody's got to do it. Someone's got to take one for the team. Because we're 6 weeks in. I can't do 4 more years of this, guys. I don't give a fuck. Just come. You have to. I'm not asking.
Somebody do it already, please. Please, I'm begging you. Somebody take one for the team. I can't do it anymore. Cannot wait for the day that I wake up and I see the headlines. I'm throwing a party. You're all invited. Everyone's invited. I need someone to do it soon. Now. Please.
It's coming. We're all going to wake up one morning and roll over and grab our phones, and that headline's going to be right there. It's going to happen, and I can't wait.
Oh. So, so what did you think of all those crazy?
No, you had shared this thought with me before, and I thought originally I'd said to you I thought it was a federal offense to make this threat, but they're not actually making the threat themselves.
Yeah, they're not saying I'm going to kill them.
To do it. So
yeah, let me play a little more. Yeah,
staying out of federal prison.
Let me play a little more. I had to skip over commercial. Let me play just a little bit more. Well, hang on.
Happy Friday.
If you're going through it right now, I just want you to think of the inevitable day, hopefully sooner than later, that you wake up one morning and the sun is shining just somehow a little bit brighter. You open your phone, breaking news. You hear chanting in the street. You hear sounds of celebration. Everyone is elated. There's a feeling of relief going through our society, all because of this breaking news. I want you to hold on to that feeling, because we know what's going to happen. It's just like a matter of when.
Someone just needs to do it. Someone just needs to get it done. And I'm not usually pro doing it, but like someone just needs to do it. Somebody just do it. Just do it already. Because you're not doing it. Just do it, please. Just do it, please. Do it.
When it happens.
And this goes on. And by the way, and if you look at these people, a great many of them are, the purple hair, the rings in the nose. I mean, society rejects. But there are. It's stunning how many of these people are out there. Any thoughts on?
What's shocking to me, and I can't. We talked about Luigi Mangione, and who was the other person we were talking about a couple weeks ago? Their defense fund is like ridiculously high for committing a murder. Yeah. I can't remember who it is, but anyway, this society of when is it okay to kill somebody other than in self-defense?
Yeah, and the ironic thing is that a great many of these people are anti-death penalty.
Yeah,
it's just crazy about how many people are anti-death penalty, and yet they're pro-assassination. You can't be both.
Mm-hmm. I don't see in what world, again, unless you're defending yourself, what world is it okay to kill another human being?
It isn't. Well, let me put it this way. And at a minimum, if you're pro-political assassination, then how can you be anti-death penalty? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to look.
People that are, putting these murderers on a pedestal and.
Yeah, and that's what and they were all saying. This goes on and on about the legal. By the way, the legal defense fund was for Carmelo Anthony.
That's who it was. Yes,
that guy that stabbed the high school athlete in the chest and killed him during a high school track meet. But the hypocrisy of saying I'm anti-death penalty, but pro-political assassination. And again, if we go further in this, and if you do it, and even if you get killed for doing it, your children and your spouse, we'll set up a GoFundMe for you. They'll live in luxury for the rest of their lives. So, I mean, they're literally encouraging people to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, you'll put this link up on the JerzeeJoe.com website.
And it is a federal offense to threaten the president.
Right, but they're not threatening the president.
Yeah, they're encouraging other people to do it.
They're encouraging other people to do it. And they're saying, please, please make it happen. It'll be the happiest day of my life. Celebrate. We'll have a party. So anyway. So now let's move on to the stupidest thing I've heard all week, which is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. I'm trying to remember what country she's from. She's a immigrant to this country. This is a woman who married her brother and claimed it was her husband. I don't know if you know the whole backstory behind her. But anyway, yeah, she came here and I think her brother was a resident or something, and she claimed her brother was her spouse and whatnot to get her green card. But anyway, so here's Ilhan Mo, and this is a really quick interview, but she's talking about uh, uh, how white men are responsible for most of the death in the country, which is factually incorrect. And here we go.
All right. Say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men. I would.
Now, let me tell you how wrong she is. Now, every year the FBI puts out something called the FBI Uniform Crime Report, and every police department in the country, by the way, when somebody commits a felony, there's a standard form they use, and a copy automatically gets sent to the FBI. And every year, about 6 months after the end of the calendar year, the FBI compiles all of this data and says, here's crime trends, here's how many murders, here's how many assaults, robberies, rapes, and they break it down by age, race, state, what was the race of the victim, what was the race of the attacker. So clearly when she's saying that white men are responsible for most of the deaths in this country and we need more monitoring white men, she's obviously either never read the FBI annual crime report that shows for calendar 2023, which is the most recent year for which data is available. The 24 data won't be available for another few months. That for those homicides where the race of the assailant was known, which was 15,708, and I say was known because not every murder has a known. When they find a body by the side of the road, they don't, and they never catch the killer. They don't know the race of the killer. But for those homicides where the race of the assailant was known, which was 15,708, white offenders accounted for 6,405. Well, if you're good at math, you know that 6,405 divided by 15,708 is just 40.8, which is not the majority. However, that same FBI report that shows out of those 15,708 homicides, that Black/African American assailants were responsible for 8,842 of those 15,000. Let me ask you a question. Is 8,842 more than 50% of 15,000?
Yes, it's like closer to 60%.
56.3%. And you will find those numbers in the FBI annual crime report, expanded homicide data, table 3. Expanded homicide data, table 3. So if you go to the FBI Uniform Crime Report for 2023, expanded homicide data, you'll see the race of the assailant, the age of the assailant, were they men, were they male, were they female? So the question comes up, since she's making this bogus claim that it's white men who are responsible, so here's the question. Is she just a clueless idiot who doesn't know what she's talking about? Or is she a knowing liar that she knows that she knows it's a lie? And which answer is more troubling when the person making that bogus claim is a member of Congress?
Yeah, I think when you make these claims, you really need to fact check yourself and look this up. And the FBI is obviously a very reputable source. And to go back to your earlier question, I looked her up. She's from Mogadishu, Somalia, originally born and raised. But yeah, she's House of Representatives in the state of Minnesota.
But here's a question. So she's either a clueless idiot who doesn't know what she's talking about, or she's a knowing liar. So when that person is a member of Congress, which of those two answers is more troubling?
Yeah, as a member of Congress, you should be fact checking these statements.
Well, assuming she did fact check and she knows it's a lie.
Well, then that's a lie.
Okay, but which is more trouble?
I don't know, because you should have in Congress, you should definitely have fact checkers there.
Well, just again for our listeners to think about, when a person and I did this with Obama and Biden too, where they would tell these whoppers. So my question has always been, when you're an elected representative and you tell a whopping lie, there's only two reasons. Either you didn't know what you were talking about, or you knew what you're talking about and decided to lie about it. And in those situations, which of those two answers troubles you more? That the person speaking is either an idiot or that they know it's a lie and they say it anyway. So that's the question for our listeners to think about. All right.
I do find it interesting that she is again a member of the House of Representatives for the state of Minnesota, and she is well, she is now an American citizen, but she spent her youth in Somalia.
And Somalia. Yep. Yep. All right.
And her family came to America under asylum.
Yeah, under asylum, and she's now a U.S. citizen. She's a member of the House of Representatives from Minnesota. So, and it's a short clip, but you'll post that to the site of Facebook. Okay, good. So let's talk about AI. Now, I know you post pictures. I see your Facebook site. Do you remove the metadata when you post your pictures?
I don't. Well, some of it, not all of it, no.
Okay.
But I'm also, as you know, most of my Facebook posts are revolving dogs. So.
All right. Well, here's something scary. I read about this the other day, and this is from McAfee, the virus people, the antivirus people.
Mm-hmm.
They've done some experiments with AI systems like ChatGPT that we've talked about here. And it's not just ChatGPT, but they've done some experiments where they put up a picture and then asked ChatGPT, and this is after they removed the metadata. They said, ChatGPT, where was this picture taken? Now, in a very crude example, if you posted a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, and depending on what shore was visible on the back opposite shore, if I was an AI system, I could say, well, that's the Golden Gate Bridge, so you're near San Francisco. And if I can see San Francisco on the other side of the bridge, you're in Marin County. Or if the picture of the Golden Gate Bridge and there's nothing but homes, on the other side of the other end of the bridge, you're in San Francisco shooting towards Marin County. So that's a rudimentary explanation of how an AI system would look at a picture with no metadata, and it would recognize the bridge, and then it would look at the surroundings, and it would deduce from the surroundings if you were either in San Francisco or in Marin County. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if the thing in the picture that was visible was a picture of just two grain silos, an outbuilding, and a small section of a highway? Well, with access to every picture ever posted to the internet, including pictures that wind up in company brochures and, town brochures and whatnot, and an AI system can scan tens of millions of pictures in seconds, looking for a match to those two grain silos with the outbuilding next to a highway, and predict pretty good, where that picture was taken. Is that scary? You tell me.
Yeah, I saw a few years ago one of the news shows, one of the news primetime, like a 2020 or whatever, they posted a photo and they asked the investigator to say like where it is, and using the absolute most subtle clues, they were able to pinpoint exactly where that photograph was taken, down to the shadows of, you see a Wendy's in the background, but you can tell which direction it was from the shadow from the sun in the sky.
Right, the orientation, right, which way the building is facing from the shadow, absolutely. So anyway, it's scary. They give in the story, and I've got a link to the story here that you'll post. It's scary how good these AI systems.
Yeah.
So if you're posting pictures on the internet or your Facebook page, and you don't want people to know where you live, think twice, because anybody, you and I can access ChatGPT if you're concerned about people knowing where you live, you may want to think twice about posting pictures of your home or your workplace, because anybody with access to ChatGPT, who's everybody, by the way, can run that picture through ChatGPT and know where that house is.
Yes, ChatGPT, by the way, and most of this AI stuff is all open source, so it's free.
Yep. All right, so let's go on to another failed.
Basic level.
Let's go on to another failed global. Remember Al Gore, the polar ice caps are going to be gone in 10 years.
Yep.
Well, a new report came out just based on satellite data for the 3-year period from 2021 to 2022, and it showed that every year for the last 3 years that the Antarctic ice sheet has gained an average of 108 gigatons of new ice every year for that past 3 years. Now, 108 gigatons times three is 324 gigatons. I'm trying to remember, you know anybody with a degree in earth sciences?
How much is in a gigaton?
Is that a million tons or
Uh,
a
a,
billion tons? What's a gigaton?
it's more, it's after million, billion, trillion,
Trillion?
gig. I think it's a giga after a trillion, right?
Yeah, giga. Yeah, so it's like a trillion, a billion, trillion, whatever it is. Yeah.
Million,
So,
billion, trillion.
yeah.
And then I
So,
think billion, giga a ton after that.
yeah. So anyway, that's so I don't know how the global warming people are gonna try to explain that one away, but the Antarctic ice cap has been growing massively every year for the past 3 years. All right, let's move on to weight loss gloves. Now,
Going back to that though, you have posted this before. The Statue of Liberty, the pictures of the Statue of Liberty, like when it, from 100 years ago to now,
no
what
difference.
there's
No
no difference.
difference. No difference. All right. Um, all right, so let's move on to weight loss drugs. And by the way, the generic, you got Ozempic, you got Wegovy, but underneath the chemical name is semaglutide, and there's others. You can get compounds of semaglutide, which, but and don't remember, it's weekly injections, and it's helped tens of thousands of people lose weight, which is healthy. However, they found that semaglutide contribute to nearly 25,000 emergency room visits between 2022 and 2023, with 82% of those occurring in 2023. The visits were typically due to gastrointestinal complications. Patients
Mhm.
experienced nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. And in some hospitals were also reported low blood sugar, allergic reaction, pancreatitis, very serious, bile duct disease. So don't be wrong, if you're grossly overweight and it's impacting your health and you got to weigh the risk benefit. Certainly there's a benefit, to losing, if your weight is causing you medical problems, then it's probably worth the risk. But at the same time, be aware it is not risk free. And I've got the link to that study, which producer Susan, I hope you will include that in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, these drugs were invented to help fight off type 2 diabetes, which is, often can go hand in hand with obesity. And it was, as they were controlling their diabetes, people were finding that they were losing weight. And again, that's a serious medical condition and people were losing weight from it. But the side effects of some of these drugs beyond, if you don't have diabetes, are they really worth the side effects?
Yeah, if you're just doing this because you want to drop 30 pounds, you really want to take that type of risk. I mean, if you don't need to do it for a health reason, is it really worth the risk?
Yeah.
As opposed to a gym membership. All right. So let's move on to ASPCA. I know you donate to
Yeah.
various animal, but what's your favorite animal welfare group that you donate to?
Oh, what? Welfare. So locally, all these ASPCAs, there's local shelters in major cities and towns, and there's two here in my town. They might be under the ASPCA umbrella, which only one of them is, not both of them. But
Okay.
locally, go to the local door and give them donations, whether
Right.
it's food
Yeah.
or money or
Yeah.
whatever.
Don't do it like I see these TV ads and they want you to, send now your call this number. It's an 800 number. So let me give you a rundown of the compensation of the executives. So the CEO of ASPCA nationally has a salary of $1.2 million.
That's
Now, here's what shocked
absurd.
me. I've worked in a lot of Fortune 500 companies. They have one, two, three, four, five. They have seven senior VPs, each and every one of those senior VPs making more than $500,000 a year.
A nonprofit shouldn't have executives. And now, don't get me wrong, you need executives to run some of these very large nonprofits, but an executive for a nonprofit, a 501(c)(3), should not be making that much money.
$1.2 million. And why do you need seven senior VPs, each making over 500,000?
Yeah.
Now, by the way, in addition to the senior VPs, you also have five other VPs. They don't make 500,000. They only make 350,000. Oh, and then you have an outside director, somebody by the name of Jemiah Gale. So if you're an outside director, you don't work there every day. You just just come to a couple of board meetings. So they have an outside director by the name of Jemai Gale. And by the way, typically outside directors, they get, if it's a big, they might get, 50,000 plus travel expenses. This outside director is getting a compensation. It's not a salary because she's not an employee. She has a compensation of $414,000 a year as a director. It's, in my opinion, disgusting.
It is, absolutely.
So, because collectively we're talking, well, 2, 3, 4, I'm looking at $10 million in executive and director compensation. How many dogs could you save
Oh
and
my gosh,
feed? I mean, if it costs you $5 a day to house a dog, divide $10 million by $5, and that's how many dogs they could be feeding. All right.
Yeah, go knock on your local dog shelter, give them cash or a check, or
Directly.
A lot of them want goods like, paper towels and cleaning supplies and dog food.
Yep, and dog food. Yep, bag of dog food. All right. How much time we got?
Oh, we have about 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes.
No, I try to get through as quick as we can. All right. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's a billionaire, by the way, he's heir to the I forget which hotel chain it is.
Marriott?
No, not Marriott. It's the other big one.
Not Hilton.
Anyway, it's not Holiday, but anyway, he's a billionaire. Hilton, I think it's maybe the Hilton. Anyway, he's a billionaire. He signed a bill that allows illegal aliens, ready for this, if they're residents of Illinois for 90 days, they can legally change their names in that state with no public notice. Normally, if you're going to change your name, there's a notice in the newspaper that, Jane Smith, is filed for a change of name. If anybody has any objection, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm sure they're allowing illegal aliens after 90 days in the state to legally change their names with no public notice. I'm sure that will in no way impede the ability of ICE to identify and locate illegal aliens that they're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's an outstanding deportation order that's been signed against Jose Jimenez, and Jose Jimenez has changed his name in Illinois, I'm sure that's not going to impede their ability to go find him, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there was no other motivation behind signing that law. So that's news. And you heard about that on TV, right? That was widely media talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also talked about the global warming Antarctic ice sheet, right? That was a big news story.
Yeah.
And they we talk about this. Oh, and you heard about, and they all report about Ilhan Omar lying about how white men are killing the most people in this country, right? They didn't tell you about that one either? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Hyatt, by the way. It's the Hyatt chain.
Hyatt Hotel. Thank you.
No, it wasn't Hilton. That's Paris.
All right. Now, as long as we're talking about Illinois, let's go to back to Illinois, where we have J.B. Pritzker talking about how they passed this law where, people with, quote, what they call assault weapons have to, quote, register them with the state. Well, here he's telling us how people are registering their automatic weapons. Now, what's an automatic weapon?
Something that can shoot continuously.
Yeah, otherwise known as a machine gun. Well, guess what? Normal people can't buy and own machine guns, but here he's telling the public that people are registering their automatic weapons. Well, hang on, I got to turn on the...
And by the way, people are actually signing up, registering their automatic assault weapons. Their
automatic assault weapons, meaning he's trying to tell the public that people out there own machine guns and they're registering their machine guns. How disingenuous is that? I'm going to play that one more time.
And by the way, people are actually signing up, registering their automatic assault weapons.
How's that for fear mongering, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move right along. I got John Stossel. He takes on the myth that, it's a myth. Hollywood and politicians have been trying to convince people that good guys with guns saving lives is a myth. It's a conservative myth. And the old saying, if you repeat a lie long enough, people start to believe it. Well, he tells you how they're working very hard to make people believe that good guys with guns saving lives is a myth. Here we go.
Yes, it's Hollywood. Countless TV shows portray good guys who try to stop crimes with their own guns as fools.
Business arrest, drop your gun.
The wise police officer sums it up.
Leave it to a good guy with a gun to really screw things up.
Liberal politicians agree.
A good guy with a gun will stop the bad guys with a gun. It doesn't hold up.
It doesn't, say experts, the media feature.
Good guy with a gun statistically isn't realistic. It's an adolescent rescue fantasy.
An adolescent rescue fantasy? Now, I'm no gun person. I was raised among lefty gun haters. I assumed Hollywood and the media told the truth. But then, 17 years ago, I hired the best data analyzer I know. That very tall guy on the left, Maxim Lott, here talking to the nearly as tall John Lott, his father, a criminal justice researcher who wrote this book, More Guns, Less Crime? I was skeptical, and some researchers questioned Lott's data, but I've come to believe Lott is making a good point. In places where bad guys fear a good guy might be armed, crime tends to fall. Often just showing a weapon is enough to stop an assault. Police don't track such events, but these days some are posted on the web. Here an employee grabs her gun and the robber runs away. And again here.
3 robbers caught on camera breaking into a home in Atlanta. The men scramble to escape as the woman chases them.
When a civilian tries to stop one of these instances, they're overwhelmingly successful.
So why do all these TV shows lecture us about how it doesn't work?
The gun control groups brag about working with the screenwriters and the producers for the shows.
This group even boasts about its partnership with Hollywood and how they're consulted on scripts.
There's major star power behind an effort to rewrite the script on how guns are used in Hollywood.
They think they're making us safer because they believe FBI reports that say shooters being killed by citizens is rare. Why does the FBI say that?
They're simply missing a huge number of cases.
For example, well, the FBI includes the famous Pulse nightclub shooting.
At least 50 people are dead.
1 week afterwards, there was a similar attack at a nightclub in South Carolina.
There, a concealed carrier took down the shooter.
The thing is, it got virtually no news coverage.
49 people being killed is going to be a bigger story than 3 people being killed.
I understand, but the guy still had like 125 rounds of ammunition on him when he was stopped. You would think at least some of the news coverage would at least mention, here's another case that almost turned out to be the same, but it was stopped.
Also, remember the Parkland shooting?
At least 17 people are dead in Parkland, Florida.
Just a few months later, in Titusville, Florida, there was an elementary school that was having a big event at a park right next to the school. Had hundreds of students there, and a man came up, started firing his gun.
Police say the gunman was then shot by someone else who had a legally concealed weapon.
And was able to seriously wound the attacker and stop him before he was able to go and kill anybody.
The bystanders saved a lot of people's lives, says the police. But I never heard about that. Local media covered it, but it hardly got attention beyond that.
Now I'm going to cover it. It goes on for another 2.5 minutes, and we don't have time. But, you know, one of the conundrums is that the reason I don't hear about good guys with guns stopping mass shooters is typically when there's a good guy with a gun there, the incident never gets to become a mass shooting. I mean, like they talk about the guy with 120 rounds of ammunition. If like the guy in Indianapolis shopping mall in the food court, you know, pulled out his gun and shot the guy with the AR-15. Well, the guy with the AR-15 only shot one person. Now, do you think before the good guy with the gun shot him, so it didn't become a national news story. Now, do you think if the good guy with the gun wasn't there, it would have become a mass shooting?
Oh, absolutely. He prevented. I mean, how many guns can you hold in a magazine in that type of gun?
Oh, you can put 30 rounds in an AR-15 mag, you know. And if you have
assuming he only even had a 50% shot rate, that's still 15 deaths.
15 deaths. So again, the conundrum is when there's a good guy with a gun there, the incident never becomes or rarely becomes a mass shooting because the good guy with the gun stops the bad guy with the gun, you know, before there's, you know, any fatalities or maybe 1 or 2 fatalities instead of 10 or 15 fatalities. That's why you never hear about a good guy with a gun, quote, preventing a mass shooting, because by the time the body count gets to 15 or more, that means that there wasn't a good guy with a gun there. So that's the conundrum. If you can, producer Susan, put that entire thing up on the website. As if people want to listen to the whole thing and share it or post it to their Facebook. Anyway, we're probably down to 2-3 minutes?
Yes.
All right, let's just play the real quick. Tennessee. taxpayer relief shot. Here we go.
I have an update regarding a recent shooting that occurred last week in Crockett County. Last Thursday, the Crockett County Sheriff's Department responded to a shooting on Chestnut Bluff, Murray City Road. We learned Friday it appeared to be domestic violence related, and no charges were filed at that time. Now, today we spoke with District Attorney General Frederick Agee. He told us this shooting was considered to be in self-defense and that his office would not be pursuing any charges.
She's 6 months pregnant.
And this is the sheriff, by the way, of Crockett County, Tennessee.
There were 2 other children in the house.
Any charges?
She's 6 months pregnant. There were 2 other children in the household. She had no other choice but to defend herself. And that's why people have guns. And in this case, she used her firearm appropriately to defend not only herself, but her children.
And by my correct, that was not the sheriff. That was actually the district attorney saying that. So again, what chance do you think she's 6 months pregnant? What chance do you think she would have had against a stronger, bigger male guy that was there to do her harm, either beat her to death, choke her, or stab her?
Yeah, she saved herself, her unborn baby, and her 2 children.
You got it. Anyway, so I know we're running out of time. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, folks, if you want to, thank you for listening for another 30 minutes. You can find the information we talked about in the video clips and some of the stories and the links to like the Arctic ice. You'll be able to find those in a couple of days on the Jerzee Joe website, which is at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jerzee, J-E-R-Z as in zebra, E-E, J-E-R-Z-E-E, jerzeejoe.com. And you'll find all those stories, get producer Susan a couple of days. And if you want to email me with a comment, question, suggested show top, or you want to get put on our weekly distribution list, so you don't have to go search for the podcast, we can email and put you on the email distribution list. Just send me an email to Joe at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Talk to you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.